morning, everybody. This is Gulf Harbour Radio, and it is indeed a good morning. We have a lovely morning here. Patricia and David, ZMH286, for those that want the details. We have a lovely 18 degrees, a little bit down from yesterday, but 18 degrees is quite pleasant. 1023.4 steady on the bar, and hardly any wind. It's about 3 knots from the east. We have a report from Four Seasons, who are ripping down to Picton at the moment. They'll be there later on today. Out there, it's northwest 14, and they are really having a final good sail towards Picton. So there is a bit of wind out there, but not much around Gulf Harbour Radio at the moment. And I suspect there's not too many people around Gulf Harbour Radio listening either, because so many of you are now in port. So we need to have a bit of a think about how long we'll be running. But anyway, we will be here next week, and I know that there are people wanting to go, and David will certainly be discussing that shortly. So it actually looks quite positive. He was looking quite happy about it. And good morning to Mesotroy. Oh, Diego's finally got himself out of bed up there. Scattered cumulus and cold. Wow. Oh, poor. That's not very wonderful. Well, it's nice down here, so if you're in this area, it's rather pleasant. All right, the news of the day, such as it is, we always tend to run out a little bit by the end of the week. Mr. Trump is evidently in a very black, dark mood over there, so we won't talk about that much. Probably it's not been helped by the fact that the migrant caravan from South or Central America there, it has reached Tijuana, so they can see their destination over the wall and see the troops that are waiting there. So I would say that next week that will start brewing. They're just waiting at the moment for their leaders to arrive in Tijuana. There's several hundred of them now set up in camps, but they will mass there over the next few days. Actually, the eastern side of the USA is not really a good place to be, so just as well they're there. On the eastern side, there are about 25 million people under a flood or flash flood warning watch from Georgia to Virginia. Heavy rain and snow, and the Appalachians into New England are going to be a really chilly spot to be this weekend. Very, very early snow for them, but the weather here is actually going to be rather nice. Theresa May, she's got her problems too. She thought she had solved the Brexit thing. Not a very wonderful deal, but at least it was a deal. But it only lasted half a day, and then her agreement that she had reached with her cabinet fell apart. Her secretary of Brexit, Dominic somebody or other, he has resigned. And it sort of came out that neither side is very happy with what's happened there. It's a sort of a soft border between the two islands, and evidently the trade thing was going to keep them associated with the EU for a couple of years, which I don't know why that's not satisfactory. It gave them enough time to get things sorted out. But anyway, that's all fallen apart over there, so that will not make her weekend very cheerful either.
I wish you never happy.
No, well, nobody's ever happy on those sorts of things. But we were very pleased to read in the Daily Times. You know, when I'm trying to put this news together and find things of interest to you, I do look at our local papers, and I look at CNN, and I look at the Daily Times in the UK, and Jack Reacher movies, well, you will know if you're a Jack Reacher fan, as we are here from the books. We were absolutely appalled that Tom Cruise was chosen to play the role of Jack Reacher. I mean, he just wasn't anywhere near what we thought of as a Jack Reacher person. And Lee Charles has finally decided that a 5'7" person is way too short to play Jack Reacher, and so that's the end of Tom Cruise with Jack Reacher movies. Well, thank goodness for that. I mean, we could have told them that 2 movies ago, but nobody asked us. Well, of course, the Daily Times isn't a place to get really, really sensible news, so I go to the Guardian, and believe it or not, they had news from Australasia about our sausage sizzle problem, which has actually got sort of quite a lot of news. Evidently, one of our radio stations here, More FM, they sent all their reporters out to try and slip on spilled cooked onions, which was, of course, the reason why Bunnings decided that you couldn't put cooked onions on the top of the sausage. It had to go underneath. And none of those reporters were able to manage a slip on a onion. So anyway, both prime ministers, and they're doing very intelligent, sensible things at the APEC conference in Papua New Guinea at the moment, both prime ministers in New Zealand and Australia, I've forgotten his name now because they changed them so often, Morrison, isn't it? Yes, Morrison and Ardern, decided that you could have onions on the top, underneath, any way you like them. I mean, let's face it, the sausage sizzle in New Zealand and Australia is sort of a national thing. It's sort of like pizza and carbonara in Italy, and the hamburger in Australia, and the USA, and Mexico's fajitas. I mean, you just don't fiddle about with a sausage sizzle. It's part of our
culture.
Culture, yes. It's about the only culture we've got, those sorts of things, being such a new country. All right, so I think that we should really blacklist Bunnings, but we'll see what happens there. You can see that New Zealand and Australia do concentrate on things that are important to the world. All right, that's about all I have got at the moment, because today, of course, being Friday, we concentrate on weather. There's not too many folk out there really, really interested in weather, but some of you are, because you're still in the islands, and I think you will be very happy with what David's got to talk to you about today. Maybe. All right, we'll see what happens. And it sounds like in Denarau it's warm and sunny. I bet it would be too. Let's have a look at the satellite picture there. Oh, New Caledonia looks rather nice too, but it is getting sort of more cloudy in some places up there.
Denarau is just lucky.
Denarau is a bit lucky. I don't think it's as sunny over there in the Suva area, but we'll wait and see what we hear on streaming or otherwise. And I'm going to pass the microphone to David, and we'll get straight into the weather.
Yep, good morning. For those of you that are left up there, I'm going to give you a brief synoptic analysis to begin with this. And first, our New Zealand high that we've been talking about now for a while. It's moved east a bit, centered near 40 and 172 west. So hopefully if you're interested in making passages, you are pulling down your synoptic charts. So you'll see it there, 40172 west. And it's got a central pressure of about 1025 millibar, 1025. So it's got a little bit of oomph to it, sitting there spinning around. Now a depression is found just to the west of Fiordland with a secondary center that's east of Timaru. And as a result of these two things, we've got a couple of troughs that are moving up the country. And feeding these lows, particularly the western low, I find another high that's just to the east of Tasmania. It's also at 1025. Now, our subtropical low, again, you'll remember that's the one that's more or less south of Tonga and Niue. That has re-energized, as we mentioned it would yesterday, and it sits at about 30 and 157 west. And it's sending two troughs still, north and then west, like it did yesterday. One of them are going toward Niue and Tonga, then off to Rotuma. And then there's also a quasi-stationary front that runs from the low to Fiji. Then it goes on to Tropical Depression 02F, Foxtrot. Now, from this disturbance, another trough also runs to the Solomon. So from TD02F, a trough emanates from that, and it goes up to the Solomon. So I hope you understand that. Okay, furthermore, we have another quasi-stationary front that runs from Fiji. That one goes south toward Raoul Island. And then to complicate things even more up in the tropics, we have another trough that runs from Tokelau to just to the north of Samoa, and then it goes on to the southern Cooks. Does a little bit of an arc there. So by tomorrow, this subtropical depression really winds up to a rather aggressive low, a 991 millibar low. Now, it really has no effect on any of the passages to New Zealand from Tonga or Fiji. But what it is doing is pulling a lot of energy out of the surrounding area to include some of the islands. So by Sunday, we'll find this depression moves even more to the east-southeast. And at this time, New Zealand is going to be affected by its next low. And we'll see cyclonic flow covering the entire country. Now, the Tasman High that I mentioned a second ago still sits near Tassie, and it does grow in intensity. So the central pressure is going to rise to 1028 millibar, 1028. And up in the islands, we're going to find slack isobars. So even though we have a fairly strong high, the isobars are fairly well spread apart. So we're going to see very little pressure gradient up there, which is reasonably good news. So that is the story for today, right through the weekend in the Southwest Pacific. And I think I'm now just going to run over and we'll start looking at the island groups. And starting with Tonga, where our trough, good old trough sitting there, is still slow moving over the group. So you could expect mostly cloudy conditions today, and of course overcast periods with occasional rain. And even Tonga Met Service is stating that. Now, on satellite imagery, the trough is really quite evident if you were to look at the loop. Now, the trough may move off tomorrow, but it'll leave some cloud, and we'll see some off and on showers probably tomorrow from this. Winds are going to be a mix today. We'll see northeasterlies mostly. They'll be clashing with a few northwesterlies and may get up to the 20 knot range. Tomorrow, the winds completely change. Looks like south-southwest, 10 to 15. So that's quite a bit of a switch. Now, conditions this morning, Vavau northeast at 10. That scattered a broken there, barometer 1008. And the Hapai's northeast at 8, scattered 1007. And Tongatapu, here comes our wind shift, northwest 13. And they had rain. It is raining. Overcast, barometer 1007. So we have a little bit of a pressure gradient, and we do see wind changes up there in the group. Now, Fiji, that's also got its slow-moving, fairly active trough, and that brings cloud showers and thunderstorms. And while we have a report or two of blue sky, I can see that on the loop right now, but right behind that are more clouds. So enjoy the blue sky while you can. I think it's going to be an off and on thing, but things are expected to improve a little bit later today. So for most of today, expect south to southwest winds about 10 to 15, and tomorrow southerlies about 10 to 15. Now I'm going to mention TD02F, that's the tropical disturbance. It's a pesky little critter. It's still sitting there, almost anchored near Vanuatu, just east-northeast of the banks. Cloud and trough conditions, therefore, are affecting Vanuatu. It's a fairly broad bit of activity there. Satellite imagery shows this quite clearly. Now, Erromango down to Anishim, however, it's nearly cloud-free, so most of the activity is in the northern parts of Vanuatu. So winds over the group look to be south-southeast, probably about 15 knots around lunchtime, and lighter and a little more southerly on Saturday. Sunday, the wind's back a wee bit to maybe southeast, 10 to 15, And Monday, we're looking at southerlies from Erromango to Aneesham and point south. So if you were to depart, you'd have headwinds for between Erromango and Aneesham and probably a couple of degrees further south than that, you'll have southerlies. Over to Newcal, that shows scattered cloud this morning. The winds by lunch look to be southeast, maybe getting up to 20 knots on occasion. Tomorrow, still southeast around 15, and Sunday things lighten up to about 10 to 15, still out of the southeast. And Monday we possibly could see a veer to the south-southwest, and that'll be around 10 knots. So, well, that about sums it up. Those of you that are desperate to head to New Zealand from Fiji or points thereabouts may look at Thursday, the 22nd of November. When's Thanksgiving?
Oh, next week, Thursday usually.
Oh, that might be Thanksgiving. So bring your turkey if you will. Now, on that day, a high sits between New Zealand and the islands. For all intents and purposes, you could say New Zealand. And I've also noted that another high is in the Aussie Bight. Now, as a lot of you know by now, that's one of my little positive markers that I use for the possibility of a decent passage. So that's what I see for that date. Now, winds from Fiji to 25 south look like east-southeast winds, which is a pretty good direction if you're leaving, not being headed and bounced around too hard. And that sort of remains reasonable right up through the 1st of December. Now, there's a few hiccups in there. There is a frontal band that's midway. That looks to dissipate as it swings across the cruising routes, but you will encounter that. So that's something to think about. But overall, it does look like a reasonable chance based on today's model runs. Now, there might be also a period of headwinds on this trip, but the winds, from what I see, don't look very strong. We'll just simply have to keep watch. Now, those of you from New Caledonia, I know there's a bunch there. You could look maybe at Wednesday of next week. I mean, possibly sooner, but Wednesday looks like a possibility. And yes, there is the front. But a couple of days later, you're in it, but then you're through it, and then there's a chance for the winds to be halfway decent to get to New Zealand. So again, keep looking. No doubt things are going to change between now and early next week. So if, in fact, you are looking at any of these dates, we've got time to discuss all of this. So Monday, Tuesday next week, we'll touch base and see how things are looking. And they should be more accurate then as we're closer to the dates you would be going. So we'll keep our fingers crossed, and that may be it. And that's almost going to be it for Gulf Harbor Radio for this season, too. But we'll certainly be with you through next week. Now, any questions or comments that you've got, come now, and I'll pass it over to the chief, who may have more comments about the net.
No, I was just going to tell you actually that it's actually quite chilly in Opua. Diego says 14 degrees up there, but hot and sunny, and 50% sun actually in Suva. Good morning, Michelle. No wind to speak of there, and in Vavau, partly cloudy, light wind from the northwest, and I suspect Y2K will look at those opportunities next week as well. All right, yes, there's not much point in our continuing on and getting up early, so we'll look at the end of next week as being the end of Gulf Harbor Radio, I think. By that stage, anyone who is interested in going will be gone. And I got involved on the net. I presume you handled the people going up to the Marshalls, did you?
No.
Oh, that was yesterday. All right. They know all about that. Okay. Is there anybody with anything needed? Please call now.
At the end of the net, make sure you talk about next year.
This season's.
Well, David just has reminded me that it's the end of this season's net. We will, of course, be back next year. We're not that decrepit. Back in May, and we do have appreciated the support we've got from quite a few of you, so thank you very much for that. It does help with everything that we do here, cost-wise, so that's very, very nice. All right, I haven't heard anything. I suspect you're all, like those of you that are out there, are looking to enjoy your last week or few days, as it might be if you're heading north. And we will be back again on Monday, of course, after what looks like for us being a very nice weekend. Okay, folks, and don't forget, if you are on, if you're ham radio operated, there is the ham net at 2100 UTC. You just have to be patient, because with propagation, you either will hear maybe the New Zealand stations or the Australian stations, but you won't hear both probably. So you just have to turn it on at 2100 and see who you can hear. But we will keep touch with that as well. All right, have a good weekend, everybody, and we will be back again on Monday. Cheers all. Trigger, was that you? You're just interested to get out of that heat and get back to civilization. So, yeah, at least it looks like a possibility. All right, cheers, Chris. All right. I've just sent a message to Barry and Margaret. Barry's on his way out, according to the email that came in from Sharon.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
On his way out. So he's in a hospice?
No, they're looking after him at home. I could read that while I shut down.